We're here with Gary Landrum, and it's a very special day, the 50th celebration of It's a Small World, and you are the expert on the history of this ride. It's been 5 decades. Can you tell us, why do you think that it has endured for so long and it's just as popular today?
Well, I think it's the message that the attraction has. You know, the Disney legend Sherman Brothers gave us a beautiful theme of peace and harmony as seen through the eyes of children around the world that perhaps is a message that's more relevant to us today than any other time in the last 50 years.
It really is a timeless message, timeless part of the park, but I understand, I was reading through the facts that actually the version that went to Disneyland was 33% larger, and Disney World, I don't know how that relates, but can you tell us how those original elements were kept at essence, but yet it was also kind of adapted over for the theme parks and for that longevity?
I think the show has pretty much stayed intact. And so the main show that you saw at the World's Fair was relocated to Disneyland, but then we expanded it with the huge, beautiful, now very famous facade, and the canal that comes outside, and the now famous Disney Topiary Garden that premiered there. And so I think a lot of it was that sort of expansion of the set decoration of the exterior of the facade of the attraction.
And then when it came over here to Walt Disney World, because of course that was such a classic, it had to come here, is there anything really notable that's different that makes it Disney World's own, or pretty much you've got the essence, the different facade, of course, but inside same essence?
Right, our facades are different around the world, actually, and that's really, interestingly enough, for a geographical reason. In California, you have the intense California desert sun, right? Here in Florida, we placed it because of the context of the story of Fantasyland. Today is Festival Day in Fantasyland, right? So the royal family's invited all the people of the kingdom within the castle walls to celebrate. So that's why you see all the tournament tents. So you've got a jousting carousel, and you've got all these different stories, all these different people of the realm here. So that gave us the opportunity to do that facade with a theatrical lighting inside. Interestingly enough, in Tokyo and Hong Kong, there's a marine layer that comes in off of the Tokyo Bay and the South China Sea. So we punch up the colors. They're much more intense in those climates, as well as Paris, which has a tropical climate. So you see a different personality for each of them. Of course, in 2005, we plussed the attraction, which was a popular term that Walt liked to use, where we did a couple different things here. We paid homage to the classic facade at Disneyland with the clock tower behind me. We also, when we brought the attraction here to Florida originally in 1971, we took inspiration from the beautiful stylized designs of Mary Blair and used them as backdrops to all the different regional sets throughout the attraction. And it really was beautiful, but when we did research for the 2005 refresh, we found that, you know, they were pretty clever back at the World's Fair time by using a black backdrop. It really pulled the sets up and made them much more stars, the characters much more the stars that they are. So we went back to that classic design, and if you'll notice as you go through the attraction today, there is the solid black backdrop. Also technology. Walt set a tradition way back in film and television of using technology to advance the stories that we tell. And we continue that in Imagineering today. Originally, when it was installed here in Florida, it was kind of a mono audio track. Now we've been able to take that, digitally remaster it, separate the channels out, so that when you go by the little boy playing the bagpipes, you hear the bagpipe sound coming from him. When the ducks are quacking, the sound comes from them. And it just makes the environment so much richer, so much more immersive, in which to evoke the emotion that we want our guests to have.
Yeah, I think you really hit on something important, because as a local, I ride this all the time, I don't really think a lot about all that's going on behind the scenes, but today I videoed, and honestly, one trip through, it was just going crazy to try to get all that level of detail, and I think that has really translated also well from 1964. People see the newer attractions with the detail, but really, this has been since the beginning, hasn't it? That tiny attention to every little detail.
Yeah, it's certainly known as what we call the Disney difference, right? It's Walt's, commitment to quality, his attention to detail, his consistent telling of optimistic stories, which, not some people think it's escapism. We don't believe that at all. It's really about reassurance in the world around us. There's so many wonderful stories that happen that just rarely make it to the forefront. And so that was what Walt did. He created the cliche of the happy ending because of the stories Walt Disney told, right? Disney legend John Hench often referred to him as an incurable optimist. Ray Bradbury called him one of the few futurists who thought technology would help mankind, not harm it. So he's a very positive man, and he had a profound respect for his audience. And I think the audience recognized that in the stories that he told to them, and they rewarded him by coming back again and again to relive those stories.
Absolutely, and this 50th anniversary, you can see that still holds true today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
In order to keep your weight